Hey, my name's April Sawtelle and welcome to my channel. Today what we're going to be doing is making a Scrappy Patchwork Quilt block. Here it is. This is what it's going to look like when we're all done. All you're going to need today is a whole big bunch of scraps. You'll need some rulers. I've got a 10-inch ruler and I've got a 9.5-inch ruler to square it down to. I've got a large ruler, which I'm going to be cutting the fabric with. And you're just going to need a rotary cutter. And I'm going to be using a rotating mat. Just line up your fabric. This is all my scraps. I'm using scrap clothes and scrap fabric. I'm just going to be lining them up on my mat. I'm going to line them all up right on the edge of each other. I'm just going to cut them with my ruler here. And I'm just going to keep moving my ruler up the fabric. All I'm going to do here is just line up my fabric. I am just going to be putting all of the edges together. I'm really just looking to make sure that they are 10 inches long. That's all I care about. I don't care about how wide they are. As long as I can get a 10-inch long strip out of it, I'll be fine. Some I might be able to get more, but as long as it's at least 10 inches. So the sliver, I just toss that right aside. So what I'm going to do, this top fabric I'm using is that flower. I don't particularly think I'll be using it in my quilts, but in this one I thought it would look very nice because it's going to be really small pieces. I'm just going to cut straight edges on both sides just to make sure that I have two straight edges, but they don't have to be equal in size. I just cut these edges off. They have some seams in it, and I don't really want the seams, so in this particular flower, I really want to use a lot of it because I would like to use with all of my scraps. I'm using a lot of clothes here as well. There are just a lot of recycled clothes I've had that I've gotten and from people, or at Goodwill, or my own stuff, old curtains, whatnot. Lots of fabric hauls. I've accumulated a lot of old clothes. This cat fabric, I probably will never use that in any quilts that I ever make, so I'm just going to try to get the scraps off that as well. So what I'll do, I'll just line it up and I'll see what will give me the 10 inches and what I can cut. I don't mind the multicolors. I think that would look good. So I'm just going to look at it and figure out where my 10 inches is, and as long as I've got 10 inches, I will just start cutting away. Looks like I'm going to have 10 inches in a lot of places, so I'm going to be able to use up most of this fabric, which is pretty exciting for me. And then just continue. I'm laying my blue painter's tape down at 1/4 of an inch, and that's going to help me follow that line just to keep pretty straight. Okay, I'm going to put right sides together, and I am going to just sew all the way through here. Go ahead and press between each row, and that way it will just lay nice and flat. Or, after every couple of rows, just give it a little press and then just continue. So I want the purple to pop the most, so I'm going to be sure to add this to every single block. So all I'm doing is I'm just grabbing the pieces and I'm just going to make rows and rows until I get about 10 inches. Make sure that I've got at least 10 inches. Now, if you had super long strips here, you could continue just sewing long strips together, then cut your blocks out of that. I don't have that long of pieces, so I'm just going to stop here. I know that's roughly 10 inches. So I have a piece of cardboard here I could use too instead of the ruler. I just like to keep that to my right sometimes, and then I can just like, I have a few different sizes over there, so you can just like match it up and make sure you're going to be able to square that up at that amount of, you know, at your 10 inches. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to just start making piles of these. And I'm going to make the piles, and I'm going to just keep them right over here to my right. And of course you can see that they're all like, you know, I've got stragglers here, and that's okay. I'll trim that all off when I go to the next step. So just go ahead and make your piles. Okay, so none of my purples are as long as that piece, so I'm just going to have to make one. I will just put two pieces together to give me the length I need. Just put the two pieces under your machine, put right sides together, and give it a one seam down. Okay. Open it, and then just finger press that. Okay, just like that. There's your seam. Now go ahead and add your next color. Give it a little press. I'm not setting the seams on the back on this project. I'm only just laying the seams, laying them open on the front. That's it. All right, so now I need to make sure I'm popping in some of this color because I want this throughout the whole quilt. So I'm going to throw some of this one in. This is the one that's not something I would usually use, but it's going to look really nice in my quilt here. And I just realized that this piece is not quite long enough. So let me pull this out and add another piece to it. I'm just going to put right sides together. And I'm going to do the same thing. Sew a seam right there. Open it up, press that down, and I'm back at it. Now I have a super long piece of this. Okay. I am using steam when I'm opening all those seams up. When I'm pushing that open, on the front here, it's just, I'm taking my iron, I'm gliding right across, and I am using steam. If you notice you have all these little threads popping out, this is a good time when they're just small little blocks to pull each, you know, just look it over real quick. Because after the whole quilt's sewn together and you start doing that, it's just a lot bigger job. It's a very small job when you're doing it right now. Do it as you go, and you'll have less to do later. Okay, now I'll just make sure I'm at 10 inches. Yep, I am, and I am, and so I am good there. I'll add this to my pile. That's going to give me 2 blocks. And I'm going to continue. Now, you might want to go like, you know, a little bit contrasting if you can. Dark, light, dark, light, dark, light. But you have so many different colors here. This one I'll just go, I'll keep that gold out by itself. I think that'll be pretty. And then I'll just put this over it. So there's definitely not enough to use, you know, two blocks here. So it's not even close. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to make this one just to make one block. You don't absolutely have to press between. I'm just a real big one that does press. I like my stuff to lay nice and flat. And this one I had already started. I've got two pieces sewn together here, so I'm just going to go ahead and sew this on. Just actually better make sure that's 10 inches. Oh, yes. It's kind of fun when they're stuck together because then you've got, it grows that much quicker. I'm almost thinking I might be at 10 inches there. Yes, I am. So that one was really quick. And I'll give that a press. And just real quick, since it's right here, I see I have a lot of strings on this one. I want to just get rid of them before I put this. If I sew that all together, and I'll just pick them off now. It'll just be easier. I have a little cup right here beside me at all times. I use this to put all my strings in. You'll get bombarded with strings in all of your projects, so it's nice to have something to put just strings in. So what I do is I actually have that beside me, and then I also have a place to throw my little, you know, the scraps that are just too small, the slivers of scraps that I'm going to put in the dog beds. I have a little place that I can grab those, throw that in, and then I also have a place where I throw my actual scraps into. I'll sort those out after each project. Okay, add that one to my pile. I'm just going to keep on sewing. Strips are all sewn together now. Now I'm going to just press them all flat. I'm going to do this to all of my strip sets. Lay this one down. I'm going to just cut it so it's straight. Okay, so over here, all I'm going to do, see this here? I am going to make sure that the nearest point in, I need all fabric to be underneath my ruler. I'm going to take my 2.5-inch ruler and I'm going to make a bunch of cuts here. So I'm going to cut that edge right off there so I have a nice straight line. I'm going to flip that around or turn my rotary mat. I have a rotary mat, I could have spun that. And I'm going to line my ruler up. So no matter what the size is, I need to go 2.5 inches. I'm going to just cut all of these off. I'm going to slice every piece into 2.5 inches. That's given me this. There's my strips, and now they've cut down, and now they're little patchwork blocks. I'm going to do that to all of my pieces. And it doesn't matter because as long as they're 2.5-inch segments, I know I need 5 2.5-inch segments. Now, I'm just going to take some of these and I'm going to go get ready to start sewing them together. And I'm going to match them up at the sewing machine. I'll piece them together. Using steam. I'm just going to take and press all of the blocks flat. Opening up all of these seams here. I trim all of my blocks now to 9.5 inches. So whatever size you end up with, just do the 1/2 inch below it when you trim them up. And then go ahead and make your pile. A lot of these, you can just pull your square ruler and you're already probably lined up on one side and maybe on the bottom. So you just really kind of only would have to take from two sides. You just want to make sure it's good and square. That's all. All right. Now, what we can do is I'm just doing this to look at it because I want to see if I want to make more or if I'm going to put trim or borders or what I would like to do at this point. And I preferably like to look at it to make sure nothing is, you know, touching too much. So it's just putting it up and then you got to stand back for a little bit and look it over. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to take each row and bring it over to my sewing machine and sew it and then hang it back up. So I'm just going to grab all the pieces from the top. I'm going to label it row 1 and I'm going to stick a pin with a piece of paper through it that says row 1 and I'm going to sew it in that order. So here's row 1, that's in the top left hand corner of my block. I know to start there. I'm going to lay 2 on it. I'm going to sew down 1/4 inch all the way. I'm going to open that up and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add number 3. If you forget where your order is, just look at your picture. It does get confusing. It's hard to keep it in order. I always find it difficult. I mean, some people might not, but for me, I always do. I get turned upside down a lot, like, was that the top, was that the bottom? But by putting in the pin on your top left and on the left of every single row, you'll know that's your starting point. But do always take a picture, and that way you know exactly where you are. So my first row is done. I'm going to drape this over the chair, and I'm going to go to row 2. I'm going to just continue to do this all the way through. All right. All I care about is to make sure that my seams match where each block comes together. And I'm going to just sew all the way down. I'm going to stop every once in a while to make sure that those seams match up. It's really kind of even hard to tell where your seams are because there's so many seams. The other thing I like to do is I like to just, if whatever way these are pressed, I kind of like to let that go under them that way. If not, it's fine. It just makes it a little more bulky. It really is so hard to tell where your seams are. I don't think with this project we really need to worry where the seams meet for each individual block. There's just a lot of seams here. Okay, I'm just going to continue to add these rows. Okay, so row 3. Here's my pin. I know when I lay row 3 down, that pin needs to hit this purple. So I know that now, and I can see, I'm going to look, it's a tan color. I'll take my pin out now, and I'll make that hit right there. Row 3. Okay, now I'm going to sew that on. I need to flip my quilt top over and start at this angle. So now my smaller piece is going to be on the bottom. Row 3 is on the bottom, and rows 1 and 2 are now on the top. Ready for row 4? And now we're just going to make sure we're right. Here's row 1 right here. Okay, so that's the right order. Row 4 is here. I need this piece to go into this piece. So I'm going to look at that color. It's yellow. It's this mixed color so I don't forget. Now I'll take my pin out. And then I'm going to align those ones. And I'm going to just flip my fabric over so my big quilt top part is on the top. Now you could turn your whole quilt, around so you're doing it at an opposite end, but I'm just going to do it this way. So my quilt top is on top of the number 4. Okay, once you get that, just lower your presser foot. That'll hold you in place. Put a couple of stitches, and then you can adjust. It's a little hard to adjust at that till you get that, the weight on top of it, holding it in place for you. And I'm going to press the whole thing again. Now I'm just going to take the left side and the right side and attach the purple border to that. That was the 2.5-inch purple one. Here's how my quilt top came out. My quilt top came out about 50 by 50. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Remember to keep it simple. Have a nice day. Thanks for watching. Bye.